That's right. Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And folks, 5 installments later, we have finally arrived on the eve of the Lilo and Stitch 20th anniversary. Dragon, we've done it. We've made it. 6 weeks in the making. It's the Great Disney Ranking Podcast Grand Finale. I'm clapping, Dragon. I'm clapping.
Right.
I'm sorry. How are you doing, Dragon? Does it feel good to finally be rid of this?
Yes.
All right. Dragon, in addition to us revealing our own personal top 10s, I've got a special little surprise on you that I'm going to spring on you.
Oh, no.
I know. Don't you love that? So, Dragon, here's my idea that literally just came to me right before we went on. So the 5 films that we have on the thumbnail turn out to be the 5 films that you and I both have in our top 10. So I figure between the two of us, these are the 5 films that we can agree on are, upper echelon, top tier Disney. Like between the two of us, those 5 films, for anyone just watching without seeing the visual, are Beauty and the Beast, The Emperor's New Groove, Tarzan, Aladdin, and Lilo and Stitch. Dragon, I'm flattered you have Lilo and Stitch in the top 10. But Dragon, in addition
How monster do you think I am?
In addition to finding out, what our personal rankings are, which, I will emphasize here, folks, that is the main thing we are here to do, is do our personal rankings. Dragon, I'm curious how these 5 films rank against each other as far as our rankings go. So basically, the experiment that I'm going to be conducting that will reveal the results of by the end of the night are we're going to rank our collective top 5, which means the films that place the highest out of these 5 films that are both in our top 10. So, look out for the data there coming at the end of the podcast.
I'm just going to say this is not a good idea. We're just going to move on. Because this is so everyone's going to need a flow chart to keep track of this, Tiki. This is ridiculous.
I'm literally the one with the flow chart keeping track of it, and I'm not even going to bring it up until the end of the show. So
all right, fine.
It's all good.
All right, so long as you don't keep saying, let's go to the chart.
No, this isn't
time one of them comes
Dan,
up.
Dragon.
What?
This isn't Charting with Dan, the box office show with Dan Murrell. He's the one with all the charts.
All right.
Anyways, Z and K says, let's see who owes who a soda by the end of this. Theme Park Priest says, hey, I'll only be on for 20 minutes. All right, well, Dragon, with that in mind, we better hurry the heck up. Are you ready to get into it, pal?
You go first.
All right, Tiki's number 10. Yes, I have it spelled number. Is Dragon, this is a sentimental favorite of mine. It is the first film that I ever saw on the big screen. It certainly has some problems in the plot department, but I just have to put it there just for the sheer majesty of it. I'm going for my number 10. I'm going The Lion King, which I already kind of spoiled at the end of the last podcast. So not much to talk about with The Lion King that hasn't already been said. Obviously, for me, it's got the personal attachment factor of being the first film I ever saw on the big screen. I think that's huge. First of all, I feel like that's a hell of an experience. That's a hell of a first movie to see on the big screen. And then Dragon, as you might remember, my second movie that I saw on the big screen was Toy Story. So basically, I got kind of like the upper echelon, like blue meth of Disney 2D animation. And then, the next year, I got, the proving grounds of 3D. Crazy childhood. Anyways. I do think there's some plot stuff in The Lion King that doesn't work. I will agree with you that Can You Feel the Love Tonight, apart from the tune and parts, falls a little flat. Generally speaking, I don't like Simba and Nala's dynamic, where it's I like them more as friends than I like them as, as love interests. And I kind of wish the movie would have leaned more on them, actually not getting together, because as you know, Dragon, I'm kind of a big champion for platonic relationships, and I enjoy when they do happen. But that being said, I mean, Scar is a hell of a villain. Mufasa's a hell of a hero. That death scene.
Sorry, did you say the death scene?
The animation, the music. I mean, this is a hell of a movie all around. It's a big accomplishment. It's basically the peak of the Disney Renaissance. So yeah, I had to put it in my top 10. All right. Let's see. Go with the kids next door spelling route. Yeah, that's the idea. My birth year movie. Nice. Okay. Miscellaneous says I'm listening via my phone, a game on monitor, but I may not be commenting on as much. Not a problem, Monkey. Not a problem. Just happy to have you here. All right. So with that in mind, Dragon, what is your number 10?
Yes, my number 10 is Hercules.
Hercules. Okay.
Yeah, again, Hercules was kind of on the fringes, but I mean, when I really looked at it, again, basically my top 10, I guess, could maybe best be described as like these are like, the clamshell VHS tapes that would go on the shelf, in terms of the majority of these. So the well-worn, like, the favorites, so the favorites that you could defend. So, Hercules, it's a very nostalgic pull, I will admit. It's Disney. I mean, ultimately, Hercules is on there because it's Disney tackling the superhero film via Greek myth, which is a really inspired idea. Because again, we get Greek myth, we get superheroes from Greek myth in the first place. Either that or Joseph Campbell, which essentially is pulling from Greek myth. So it's all cyclical. Regardless, it's basically, let's take that, let's take Greek myth, kind of frame it like Donner Superman, and kind of give it some swagger with, like, kind of elements like James Woods' Hades, and having that, again, it feels mythic because we're doing these things. It feels mythic in the scale and the art style, and very much, again, kind of like we're pulling from the greats. Like there's like kind of a dash of Rocky in there. It's like basically the best of the 70s. A little bit of Rocky, a lot of Donner Superman. What's not to like? I mean, every time I think of Hercules, things that jump out to me, I mean, obviously, that Hydra scene still captivates me. It still looks good, even if it is obviously, yeah, it's CG, but it's via the cap system, so you recognize it. But still, it's the integration and the fact that you can get away with it because it has like this sort of Harryhausen kind of like stop motion-y kind of effect, because it's like, yeah, this animation isn't matching, but like neither does stop motion to a degree. So it kind of plays. It's really great. It's the fact, like, okay, Hercules has killed the Hydra, and oh my God, what is happening? It's cut off one head and two more shall take its place. Just ad infinitum. It's a crazy sequence. The red lighting, just fantastic. Again, I will admit, maybe it's a little too 90s for its own good, particularly during the montages. I like those sequences, mind you. I really do. I don't mind the 90s at all. It's like, you gotta love it. You gotta love that. The look, yeah, you have your great characters like Meg, played by, I believe, Susan Egan. Rose Quartz from Steven Universe. Yeah, it's just, there's a lot of. I just find myself, I'm looking at the movie, like I'm embracing, the elements at play. Like I'm rooting for Hercules. I'm rooting for, and Phil. Like, again, I still get a little misty when we get the ending of the Hercules movie after he's made the big hero move and everything, and you just have like Phil, everything he wanted, because the idea that he botched Achilles just cracks me up, and that his big redemption is Hercules, and in the sky with the star chart. Look, that's Phil's boy. Like that's wonderful. Like, yeah. And just this is the climax ultimately, just the action. Like Hercules' big heroic moment of the film. I always found like that is such a great way to do Act 3. It's just like, no, we actually killed the love interest, and she is dying. I mean, she's already dead, but like he strikes a deal with the deal master himself, or fill in for the devil, mind you, and he makes a deal with the devil to go get her soul. And it's like, and just seriously. You look at Hercules, look at the editing on that scene. It is perfectly edited as he's like diving in there and going after it. It's just, I don't know. The movie has a lot going for it that no one really talks about. It just feels like, it was like one of those later Renaissance films that, it just kind of goes by the wayside. But I don't know. It's just kind of like, it's kind of well worn once you run it. Oh yeah, Hercules. It's just the fact they were in that sweet spot, just trying things and having fun. It turned out a movie this nice.
All right, so speaking of a movie late into the Disney Renaissance that doesn't get the love it deserves, number 9 is Tarzan, baby. Tarzan. Yeah, Dragon, this played really well on a rewatch for me, like surprisingly well. I really, really dig this movie on rewatch. To the point where I actually think the Phil Collins songs are a plus, just because I think the soundtrack just in general really slaps. I love all the songs, genuinely. Yeah, I think this movie is a very unique movie for Disney. It's a very, like, obviously with the Phil Collins soundtrack, that goes a long way, I think. The visual look of the movie, I think, is spectacular with the tree surfing and everything like that. I think Clayton is like a low-key kind of like underrated sort of like real world villain. I think he represents kind of like the nefarious nature of like actual mankind in a cool kind of way, and of course has a very memorable death. But Dragon, I think the core element of this movie that I love, that really speaks to me, and that surprisingly is pretty on brand with the original Tarzan books, is this whole theme of Tarzan feeling out of place both as a man and as an ape. And Dragon, all the stuff with Tarzan's family, all the family drama between Tarzan, Kala, and Kerchak, like that's the heart of the movie for me. That's when the movie is like almost Shakespearean with its drama. I love all that stuff. I do think that the movie has a little bit of like, you know, I almost kind of wish that Jane would have maybe came into the movie a little bit earlier, because it feels like the I don't know. It's weirdly one of those things where the origin of Tarzan and then the Tarzan and Jane stuff like almost kind of feel like two different movies, and it feels a little bit disjointed in the plot department. But I mean, that's just nitpicking. I think Tarzan is, generally speaking, a pretty fantastic movie. Really stellar animation. I mean, I think it might be one of the best blends of computer and 2D that we've ever had. So, yeah, I know you're a big fan of this one, too, so I'm curious to see where it ranks for you. Okay, let's see. Just catching up on some comments here. Z and K says this is on the eve of Herc's 25th anniversary, so that's kind of surreal, Dragon.
Oh, what do you know, huh?
Of course, we're doing this on the eve of the Lilo and Stitch 20th anniversary, so, yeah, that's kind of funny. Let's see. It's been rumored that Ron and John want to do a live-action superhero movie for Warner Brothers based off of this, and then being comic book fans, I look forward to what they may have.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. We'll see. That'd be interesting. How do you feel about that, Dragon?
Saying they did a great job with the superhero movie with Hercules, which kind of makes it stand out. So, I mean, I'd be interested to see what they would do. And we've kind of seen Disney kind of play in the superhero arena with like Big Hero 6 a little bit, but this would be with these guys who kind of did it first. So, I mean, I'd be interested.
Sorry.
I'd be interested in seeing. It's the question of like, would they be like, or if it said for Warner Brothers, so that definitely opens up some interesting possibilities, you know, versus just kind of like the MCU fare, which I mean, it's kind of like, I don't know. Think this way, I could see those directors doing a DC character. I just can't really pinpoint which one. And obviously, right now, Warner Brothers is kind of a maelstrom of chaos, so it's kind of hard to tell. You know what they're.
Hi, Ezra.
Yeah, kind of hard to tell what they'd be able to play with, or like what the rules are over there at the
Dragon. Our Ezra is unequivocally no longer the most chaotic Ezra on the internet.
Well,
oh, come on! Come on!
I know. I'm just kidding, but still, he didn't make a Flash movie though.
All right. Anyways.
Anyway. But yeah. So I don't know. Point being, it'd be interesting. Like, right now, we're doing like a Joker sequel, and we're doing Flash movies that don't have the Reverse Flash in them. I don't know.
Yeah, that's my thing. Is like if they were just to do like a standalone Superman movie or something, I'd be down for that.
Yeah,
don't think Disney's I'm sorry, I don't think DC is interested in a standalone Superman movie right now. Unfortunately,
those guys actually, just given what they do with Hercules, they'd be perfect for a Superman movie.
Exactly. Yeah, that'd be my go-to. Yeah. Let's see. Theme Park Priest says, "Gotta love Phil Collins." Oh yeah, for sure. ZNK says Tarzan is the only Renaissance flick I saw in theaters, first being Mulan. ZNK also asked, would you say Trash in the Camp is the best unintentional Disney Parks in-joke that they probably didn't intend to do? ZNK, you're going to have to kind of fill me in here. Is the in-joke being like the reference to Mrs. Potts? Is the in-joke being that the Mrs. Potts thing is in the Tarzan treehouse? Is the reference being that by the Mrs. Potts in Tarzan treehouse. You can hear the Swiss polka. What in joke are you referring to specifically? All right. Anyways, Dragon, let's pass the buck back to you. What's your number 9?
So
Number
obviously,
9.
we're in the we're in the top 10 here. We're obviously just it's an honor to place. So even just the the ones beyond the top 5, they're all contenders. I mean, debatably, you can make an argument for almost any of these to be like kind of the upper echelon of the number 1 spot. Particularly when we get to the top 5. Let's be honest. When we get to the top, those are the ones that really any of which one could be argued for number 1. But let me this way, I love all of these films. So Peter Pan, I put at number 9. So yeah, I've always had a great fondness for Peter Pan, and I kind of like debating putting it like a little higher, but I kind of flip flop between 8 and 9. The Peter Pan film. One, I have major nostalgia for Peter Pan mainly because it was my first introduction to who Walt Disney was. Really, I saw like that. I've always loved it, and especially I loved that it was in Saving Mr. Banks where you saw that clip that's on that Peter Pan VHS tape where it's like
Tom Hanks just rising up over his office desk and brushing the pixie dust off of his shoulders.
Exactly. So that was my introduction to Walt Disney, who the man was, outside just like the name. It's like, oh my God, that's him. He's all magical. Look at him.
Right.
He's friends with Tinkerbell. This guy must be important. So, like Tinkerbell's at the top of all the things. She's always like, tapping the little logo. So, anyway, so Peter Pan ultimately, it's one of those just kind of like one of the all-time greats. It captured the spirit of I think what Walt was going for when he was doing the original films or had a hand in the original films. Even though I think at that point he wasn't as hands-on.
Joke about the spirit that Walt's going for, but I won't. I'll hold off.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Tiki, are you're not plugged in right now, are you?
I'm sorry. I moved into another room for just a minute. I'll be out soon. I'm sorry.
Okay. Anyway, yes. So they have like the honestly the way I'd phrase Peter Pan, the analogy I use, Peter Pan is pixie dust, is the pixie dust approach to animation, which is really something special. It's like there's something, there's this kind of that 50s retro charm kind of resonating through all of it with that pixie dust approach, where you have like even the sound, and we kind of mentioned this in some of the other films, it's kind of like that rich kind of sound of like how the audio sounds and how it's like everything sounds, and the percussion of the score, everything. It just kind of, there's something just classic about it, just radiating in every frame of the film. And it's Disney really making a name for itself, being the definitive take on the classic stories. Like, here's the Peter Pan tale. The way, if you can only use one Peter Pan retelling, this is the one to use. And it's I mean, honestly, I can't tell you how many times like I've seen like old Disney movies on DVD in which they played that kind of that ad of like the whole, and here we go, is like from the You Can Fly sequence, in which is like, hey, we're advertising all Disney movies, and again we're using kind of the bannery sort of like one of the Disney logos with Tinkerbell, but by proxy of why is Tinkerbell so important? She made everyone fly, and it connects to the whole Peter Pan's flight of it all. Like, we have that ride for a reason because there's so much kind of like,
they fly now.
Yes. There's just a lot of I don't know. It's just literally, it's got the magic touch with stuff like that boat flying at the end. Like we're kind of doing it in style now, and we're I just have just the like Captain Hook and Smee. Obviously, they steal the show as villains, and just the wonderful dynamic that they have. The Crocodile Runner. Now, admittedly, yeah, there's no way around it. But you know what? I'm just gonna say it. Okay, so the Native American thing, clearly not good. It's no bueno. But here's how I look at it, though. I've always looked at it this way. It's never really truly like crippled the film for me because I look at it as it's the classic of cowboys and Indians. That was the thinking back then. It sucks, but it was the 50s. It was the 50s, and it's sort of like like cartoons, especially at that time, it's a medium for exaggeration of like, okay, how can we sell these guys as Native Americans? Okay, well, we definitely got to just kind of hammer that in there so they're not just like why they're random adults in Neverland. Well, Anyway, So again, it's kind of something you kind of make peace with over time. I feel, yeah, and it's not gonna get good with
I
time
hate
and
to
with
say it,
age.
but for me, it's the kind of thing where it's like over time, it just kind of gets more uncomfortable for me.
I mean, yeah, but again, it's like a historical thing where it's like, well, that's what it was, though. That's what it was in
I
the
hear what you're
50s.
saying about the cowboy and Indians thing. I do. It was part of 50s culture for sure. But
Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, it's like I don't know. It's not as bad as it's not like we're saying they can't read. We're just saying like they're different.
okay.
Yeah.
Anything else on Peter Pan? I applaud you for having it this high, actually. Like I have a lot of nostalgia for Peter Pan Dragon. As you know, my hang-ups on it really were just kind of like on the cultural stuff. And honestly, I don't really find Peter and Wendy to be all that compelling as protagonists. I'm way more drawn to Hook, Smee, and Tinkerbell is the characters that I'm really into in this movie. But yeah, anything else?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just as kind of like Z and K is kind of intimating here, with like he's kind of talking about the climax, the whole like, Hook, and Peter kind of climbing up the mast of the boat.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, the climax of Peter Pan is just something really great. We bring it to the boat in question, and it's just this. I don't know. It's just there's something just kind of like kind of Errol Flynn about that fight,
I
and
do
again, Frank
really
Thomas
love
is.
the ending with the father.
I was about to mention that though. So
Uh-huh.
the ending with George Wendy's father, is just perfect. It also has like that. I keep speaking to like that pixie dust approach, in which it's very much like it's kind of like Wizard of Oz in terms of like just kind of like there's like a classic old movie feeling. I use the Wizard of Oz comparison because it's the double casting thing where we cast the
Totally,
voice actor
totally.
for for Captain Hook for the father, which kind of
Hans
makes that
Connery,
moment,
yeah.
yeah, which makes that just kind of that makes that even better, makes it even special. Just ends the movie on just like this perfect note of like that ship reminds me of something I saw when I was a boy, and it's just kind of like that universe. Like we ended ambiguously in the best of ways, in which
Totally.
it was the
I
ship.
honestly think as a kid it was like kind of baby's first ambiguous ending.
Yeah, so I don't know. Just Peter Pan just has like this insane charm about where it's like if you're scrolling through Disney Plus or your movie collection or what have you, it's
No,
like
I hear you.
yeah,
I hear
acid.
you. It definitely does have the 50s charm for sure. And I think the ride has gone a long way to
Yeah,
cement the nostalgia.
that's what I'm saying. Like it's just Peter Pan. Ultimately, you can never forget it because it is like the ultimate analogy for the kid who doesn't grow up. Which ultimately, with nostalgia as a premise in general, like nostalgia's poster child is Peter Pan.
All
I
right.
don't know. Just kind of plays, just works.
Okay, so yeah, really quick, Z and K, well said, well said. And like I said, Dragon, I'm happy that you put it this high. I am. So Z and K says, first of all, the trashing the camp sequence inspired by the Jungle Cruise. Yeah, that is a good point. I didn't even really think about that, but you're right. I mean, like obviously with the Jungle Cruise, I feel like it's a much less elaborate setup, but yeah, still, I can see that. I'm not sure if it was intentional or not, honestly. And Z and K kind of waxing, reminiscing about the making of stuff on VHSs. So many of
Oh
those, he
yeah,
says.
I love those. Again, it's
Oh
the
yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Let's see. You mentioned his favorite shot. Then plus to give it a little bit more benefit of the doubt, this is a fantasy movie made by children in London, so I guess that's okay. Doesn't excuse it, of course.
Well, I mean, they get us reading about them in books. I don't think they're really, and again, they're probably not like the best, like most
I mean,
PC
I have
books.
heard that defense though that it is through the lens of a child who grew up specifically in like wartime London. So like I can, I understand. Like it's still gonna be culturally icky, but it's I understand it in context. Dragon, we need the malt here to set the record straight on the Indians.
Malty, where are you? Just seriously, Leonard Maltin just walks in. And he has like a box full of malted milk balls.
Oh my god.
And just like you rang,
Oh
someone
my
call me.
god. I mean, that's
I
never, ever, ever gonna happen, but that would be delightful.
just imagine it's like just sitting going to a diner with Leonard Maltin and just he orders like the malted milkshake, and so they
Oh
named
my
it after. Hey guys, do you know they named this after me? It's a really interesting story. Why don't you sit back why don't you sit back and I'll tell you? Well, you see, it was a Tuesday, and
Oh dear. All right, yeah, folks, we have quite a fixation on Leonard the Malton.
yeah.
Anyways, oh dear God. All right, so Dragon. Oh man, I'm sorry that shit. I thought I had the list in my head, but that malt talk kind of distracted me, and now I need to look the list
And
back
yo,
up.
okay, here's the ultimate thing. You ready? You ready
Okay.
for it? So Leonard Maltin walks in. Would you say his name? We're like, you and I, we're in a diner, and we're saying, it'd be really great right now, if you could, Tiki, can you regale me of the time you met Leonard Maltin? They're just gonna walks in.
I didn't meet him, Dragon. I just participated in an event that he was at.
Hey, Tiki, tell me about
him.
Like, hey, Tiki, tell me about that time you were in the same room as Leonard Maltin.
Yeah, exactly. That's more like it.
And it's like, I can't really remember. Then Leonard Maltin walks in with some malted milk balls. He says, "Hey, fellas, I don't grab a seat." And he orders
all right, Dragon. I got the list. Would you like to know my number 8?
He's talking about the Maltese Falcon. Anyway, let's go on.
Oh God! All right. Okay, my number 8. I think this might be a controversial choice that it's not in my top 5. And honestly, objectively, it might be like the best as far as just like animation, character work, pacing, songs. To tell you the truth, one of the reasons why it's not in my top 5 is simply just because it's a little overexposed. And I think as far as the subject matter goes, there's just other Disney movies that I like more than it. But Dragon, I mean, you got to give it up for my number 8 pick, Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, Tiki, this is my number 8 too.
That's your number 8. All right, so we've got our number 5, Dragon. Okay, I won't dwell on it, but that's our number 5.
You're doing it.
All right.
You're doing it right now. This is exactly what I knew you'd do. See, now you're going to throw wrong numbers at people. Okay, folks, we're on number 8. Forget what he's saying.
All right. I'm sorry. I'll write it down in the private chat.
Just write it down. Now I got to look at it, but fine, write it down.
Okay, so Beauty and the Beast, Dragon. I'll give you the floor on this first. Why don't you talk it up?
So objectively, it's probably higher. I think we're being frank. Objectively, might be a little higher, but this is probably like one of, if not one of the best from the Disney Renaissance. It's got a great story. It's got a great arc with the Beast, of course. The Beast, just from a design standpoint, is just gobsmackingly. Oh my God! Look at what we did here. I forget if Glenn Keane was.
I really like the shot that I chose of him in the thumbnail.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, he's got kind of like the Goliath cloak thing going on. So, yeah, I mean, it's just this. We're telling a great story. We're not trying to just like we're not just trying to sell like it's Hamlet with lions. It's not it's Romeo and Juliet, but with Native Americans. It's like no, we're just telling essentially this story about it just feels like we're actually telling this fairy tale in like the most cinematic way possible, which is essentially what Disney was really aiming to do once they kind of got their footing back in the 90s. And you have the ultimate showstopper dinner theater experience with Be Our Guest, which is wonderful. So the film was like is just imprinted on the culture forever because of Be Our Guest, and then you have like the big ballroom scene. So those are like the 2 reasons Beauty and the Beast will always be in the tomes of animation history.
You know what? For me, as great as all that stuff is, and as great as the Belle and Beast arc is, Dragon, what's always attracted me to this movie and what always keeps me coming back is Gaston. I mean, Gaston is such a fun, subversive villain.
Of course, now it's just so funny how the way the world works with a character like Gaston, and the doors that Gaston opens, because now we have like Homelander,
Totally.
But you don't get a Homelander without a Gaston.
I think that Gaston song is like, to me, pretty objectively the best song in the movie, at least lyrically. Just the wordplay of it is just fucking top tier. I don't know, man. There's just something about the Gaston scenes that really sing for me. I mean, the whole movie is great. I do think it's one of the best ensemble casts that a Disney movie has ever had. Because you have like right there, you've got Cogsworth and Lumiere who, like, really, Dragon, they don't have that big of a role as far as the plot goes, but they're just such a great presence.
And they got really good designs. Like, let's not
fantastic
the design work of this film. But yeah, it's me. I gotta tell you, man, I've always had a soft spot for Belle. Probably, again, even though it's kind of like a weird by marriage sort of thing, always probably my favorite of the Disney princesses.
Well, I think this is pretty objectively our top-rated Disney princess movie between the 2 of us.
Yeah, I think, I'm looking, it's...
Because, I still technically have Encanto, but I wouldn't even call that a Disney princess movie.
Well, yeah, it's a thing. It's not really a princess.
So...
By that logic, then, yes, this is our highest-rated Disney princess film. Well, there you go. So, yeah, I've always had a soft spot for being in the movie, and I had, like, a really good experience with a cast member, in Disney... At Disney once, I don't know. It's really
well. It's funny that you mentioned that because I've had some really good experiences with Gaston. I think Gaston to me is like the top tier Disney face character. Like Dragon, one of my dream jobs is to play Gaston at Disney. I would have so much fun with it.
Right.
Oh my god. I think I've shown you this video before, but there's a video of Gaston like with a little girl signing her autograph book, and she's like tiny, she's like 5 years old, and Gaston's just making like pleasant chat with her, and he's like, "And who is your favorite character, young lady?" And the girl's like, "The Beast." And then Gaston just like recoils in horror. He's like, "What?"
Oh, that's funny. That is funny.
All right.
Anyways. So I mean, like the worst, like this is not a problem at all. It's just like we're exploring the castle for most for a large section of the movie, and the angry mob's quick to kind of judge. But again, you need that to the story, though. It's fine. It's like man, that angry mob assembles like quick, but then again, it's an old timey village. And it's we have kind of a monster in there.
I do like that the angry mob is essentially what Shrek was making fun of at the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So also Howard Ashman's music, very good. We should definitely
of course, naturally.
Very, just honestly, the music in
that is like the quintessential like Disney opening song, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great character introduction. Yeah, for sure. I mean, again,
it's a great character introduction and tone setter.
It is, and obviously, I mean, for me, obviously, I'm more of like I'm kind of like the majority here, like the whole "Be Our Guest" thing. It's like there you go, there's your introduction for you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Also again our charming servant characters and everything, but obviously the big thing would be the Beast, though. Just the Beast's big transformation moment, again, like standing ovation territory. Just dear God, just like but with your Gaston point, Tiki, is the fact that he was such an ingenious subversion of what the culture and this kind of history is kind of put in front of us. Like man goes after monster, man goes after beast, and just reversing it, where the Beast is the good guy, and it was like one of the first times I was like so done in such a broad stage of like, hey. Let's reverse the roles and get people to think a little.
Who is the monster and who is the man?
One could say.
All right. So just some quick comments here. Z&K says this Leonard wordplay deserves its own video. Yep. Z&K, we've got a bunch of them, man. Anyways, Z&K also says the Beast is one of the best developed Disney characters ever. Yeah. And Mucky says no one brings Tiki back to this movie like Gaston.
Oh, I love the Deadpool parody of the Gaston song so much.
Oh yeah, of course.
Oh, it's so wonderful.
For something Howard was brought in at the last minute for, since he was booked in Aladdin at the time. Ellipses. He's probably making another point about Ashman. That's okay. All right, Dragon, let's move on. Let's get to my number 7, because that was also your number 8, and I'm going to have to... Oh, right. Okay, Dragon, my number 7, this was the biggest surprise of the whole rewatch for me. This is a film that I always kind of wrote off as, frankly, boring when I was a kid and a teenager. But I got to say, working at the Walt Disney Family Museum, getting kind of a deep dive into Tyrus Wong's art, and just kind of like the process of animation, the multiplane. Dragon, I got to go with Bambi as my number 7. Bambi, to me, represents one of the most staggering artistic achievements that the company has ever accomplished. To me, here's the thing that caught me so off guard about Bambi when I watched it through an adult lens, is that it really is just a sensory experience. Like you are, I know you rank this a lot lower, and that's totally fine. But like you are living the life of a deer, like the life cycle. And Dragon, that to me is what really kind of like kept me going through Bambi. I will admit that it's a little slow to start with, for sure. I think there's probably a little bit too many like cutesy animal sequences right at the top. But I mean, once you get into it, Dragon, basically from the meadow onwards, like once you get into that meadow scene, holy hell, the film just becomes it becomes sinister in parts, it becomes beautiful in parts, it becomes thrilling in parts, it becomes heartbreaking in parts. I mean, it's a symphony, Dragon. It's a symphony of emotions. It's a symphony of colors. I absolutely love a lot of the animation. I think that opening shot with the multiplane going through the forest is utterly phenomenal. I mean, it might be the single best use of multiplane that Disney ever did. I mean, it really is just, it knocks my socks off every time. It's fucking amazing. Just the handcrafted artistry of it. And yeah, I do think that I don't think people give enough credit to the last half of the movie when all the characters are adults, because I feel like with this movie, the thing everyone remembers, it's like, they remember Thumper, they remember the ice skating, of course, naturally they remember Bumpy's mom, she's dead. But Dragon, frankly, I don't think people really cite anything in that second act. And that second act not only has the awesome fight with that stag, which I think is a really, really cool action scene, an early action scene from Disney. That forest fire is utterly cataclysmic and thrilling and breathtaking. And Dragon, I also love, I mean, I could gush about Man all day. I genuinely I think looking at it through an adult lens, the villain of Man is just utterly terrifying, the way they depict it in this movie, how it's unseen and it's just kind of like this broad concept. It's truly like a brilliant broad stroke of storytelling for me personally. I also love how the Great Prince of the Forest is portrayed in the movie as kind of like this sort of like he's almost like so highly regarded and so powerful that he's almost like larger than life to Bambi. And only when Bambi's gone through his own struggles and trials and tribulations does he really get to stand hand in hand with the Great Prince at the end of the movie. And I don't know, man, all of that to me, I think Bambi is fucking Shakespearean in what it tries to do and what it accomplishes. And the animation is just absolutely jaw dropping. I can't put it into the top 5 because, like I said, it does take a while to get going with the, there are a little bit too many like animal shenanigans at the beginning. But like I said, man, once you hit the meadow, it ramps up and never lets go. I mean, it becomes a fucking horror movie after that in some senses. So, yeah, I love Bambi to death. It was like the biggest surprise of this whole rewatch for me as far as like my expectations and just like watching it through an adult lens and how much more I appreciated it. All right, just some comments here. Okay, he really did work himself through to the end and never half-assed it. Talking about Howard Ashman. Indeed. This could almost play out as a silent movie. That would have been a bold move. Yeah, Bambi could have, honestly. Although I think as a silent movie, the only thing is that you don't get the ideas about man and stuff like that. I mean, I would be good to cut about 90% of Thumper's dialogue, but I think you need the dialogue with the mother. I think that's the sticking point. Consider this. Man from Bambi ranks number 20 on the AFI top villain list. This above guys like Freddy Krueger and the Terminator. Yeah, I mean, it's like he is a terrifying presence. All right, so Dragon, let's just move it right along. With that in mind, what is your number 7?
My number 7 is Mulan.
Mulan. Okay. I'm honestly kind of surprised it's up this high.
Yeah, I mean, you go back to Mulan, it's a fantastic story at the heart of it. Again, I've always loved the sell of Mulan, girl saving her father from the draft, essentially. It feels like, Disney legitimized, the 80s screwball comedy, kind of gender bender screwball comedy, but added like a lot of pathos and a lot of fun to it. You have the setting of China during wartime is rather interesting. We have some good locales, and we see like the whole training, getting them ready for war, and a lot of it does pay off by the third act really well. Of course, I love Mushu for a myriad of reasons, the biggest of which probably being the magic of animation thing at Disney. basically the art of animation.
Art of animation. Yeah.
Well, no, I could have sworn. I think it's technically called.
No, actually, isn't it called Drawn to Life or something like that?
I don't. I think I just looked it up on a whim today. It said Magic of Animation, but I could be wrong.
Okay, that could be. I believe that.
To me, it's like I know it's like it has like an exhibit called the Art of Animation around it, which like all the books are called. But I don't know. Anyway, so that was my favorite Disney attraction, which I believe is no longer around, which bums me out. The fact is, a lot of reverence for Mushu because of that. Anyway, so. For me, Mulan always. If I had one moment just to distill Mulan down to, that kind of speaks volumes for it. It's we have the whole so we have Mulan, she's Ping, ho ho ho, and she's we have some comedy there, and we're in the middle of kind of like a song. Initially, it's a fine song. It's not really a song you need really, but it's like like the girl worth fighting for song. And it's like okay, it's kind of cute, and then we end it very memorably. We end it with they're about to do a girl worth fighting. They're about to chuck a snowball at Ping or Mulan or what have you. And when they do that, they drop the snowball in horror, seeing what they see before them. That has been the most effective way to end one of those Disney songs to me. You see, ended mid-sentence, just realizing things just got real when we're seeing the horrors of war of this village, with the red lighting and the blood red lighting in the sky and everything, and just
that absolutely is the best moment of the movie for sure. I'll agree with that.
What I'm getting at, Tiki, is beyond
the two big songs that I'm gonna cite.
Yes. So, I mean.
Oh God! Speaking of which, Dragon, I can't believe when we talked about Miss Marvel last week, we didn't bring up the fact that they quoted Reflections.
Yeah. There's a reflection.
I sit there and I ask myself, Kamala, who is that girl I see staring straight back at me?
I gotta be honest, Tiki. I'm not joking. I'm just because now you bring it up. I literally was waiting for you to bring it up during that podcast.
I'm honestly surprised I didn't.
Yep.
I think I just had Saga on the brain.
Yep. Anyway, so this is early Chris Sanders magic at work here.
Of course.
With Mulan, I think a lot of that was conveyed in those little character moments, and then of course we then kind of have the polish with stuff like Reflections, which is a beautiful sequence, and then we have the suit up and everything.
Reflection, I think, is the best Disney I Want song, objectively to me.
It's really good. So. It's a movie ultimately. It's about teamwork. It's about honoring your loved ones in your own unconventional way, and it's also about overcoming obstacles, which I think it kind of represents those themes, those ideas very well. And we end on a lot of nice hugs. When you look at Mulan, it's she's hugging the emperor, even though she probably shouldn't, but that's nice. It's hey. Her father is no, I don't need the sword and the honor and the little medal. It's I want my daughter. It's that's nice. Mulan is just, and of course, Ming-Na Wen, just fantastic in this movie too, playing a lot of comedy, but also a lot of heart, just going through a really kind of great gambit of kind of emotions in the film. Just again, we're really underrated actress, Ming-Na Wen. I mean, I think when people realize, Ming-Na Wen, we love her, but it's man, seriously, Ming-Na Wen, amazing.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay,
right,
Monkey's giving us.
Yeah. He says, I think Magic of Animation is the Disney Hollywood Studios attraction.
Yes, the one.
Draw to Animation is the Mushu attraction, and the Art of Animation is the Resort Hotel Complex.
Okay, I got you now. Okay,
man.
So basically, Magic of Animation is it's essentially where the Mushu attraction is.
But the Dragon isn't the one in California Monkey isn't the one in California just literally called Animation or the Animation Building? Anyways.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, cool. So, my number 6, Dragon. This is a film that inspired me to do this whole marathon to begin with, because I, like a lot of the internet, loved this movie so much that I was like, where does it really rank among the classics? Where does it really rank all time? So that's literally why I decided to go back, objectively take a look at every single one of these movies. And at the end of the day, Dragon, Encanto lies just beyond the top 5, which I honestly think is super fair for me personally. Here's the thing with Encanto. I mean, obviously, I love it to death. I'm not going to stop loving it. I just think that the rich themes of family and past trauma and healing and it's all so I don't know. Encanto is just like, it feels like a Disney ride to me in the best sense of the word, where it's like there's so many little details going on. There's so many little like side exchanges and facial reactions and, you know, little comedy bits. And I truly think like all of the family, you know, they're not the most fleshed out characters in the world, but they all just absolutely sing with personality. And you just like, you absolutely want to get to know them more. And I don't know. I really think that it's a magical movie. One of the best Disney soundtracks for me personally. I know it's not a popular statement. I know, generally speaking, people like the Moana soundtrack better. I don't get that. I really don't. I like the Encanto soundtrack considerably more. But Dragon, the only hang up I will give this movie at all is the fact that I don't really care for the scene where Mirabelle has to go into Bruno's tower. That scene basically feels like, okay, we need like some sort of like action adventure type set piece for the trailer. And it doesn't really, it kind of drags. It's kind of a pace killer. But literally, I can just fast forward that scene. Everything else around the movie is absolutely spectacular. I love how the origin story bookends itself into the opening, and you kind of see like the real tragedy of Abuela, where the opening of the movie is kind of like the fairy tale version of what happened to her. I love all that. Dos Ariquitos, I really do think should have won the Academy Award. It's a fucking beautiful song, and it was bold of Disney and Lin-Manuel Miranda to nominate that and not something with more pop energy to it. I think that the Luisa song and character are just super inspirational to the body image of young girls, and I'm actually really thrilled to have a character like that for young girls who might be suffering from body image issues. And like, it's such a powerful, kick-ass, uplifting character for that demographic. And Luisa also is by far and away, Dragon, I don't know if you know this, but as far as merchandise goes, Luisa is like far and away the most she sold the most merchandise out of any of the characters.
Yeah, Luisa, is she the gossip?
No. She's the strong one.
Oh, right. Yeah, right. Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah.
Dolores, I love Dolores. I love everyone in this movie, and I do think that Abuela is the antagonist. I wouldn't call her a Disney villain. I would call her an antagonist, and I think she's got an incredible arc in this movie. I really do. Is it wrapped up a little fast? Yeah, sure, a little. But I don't know, man. This movie just sings for me. It really does. Like, from top to bottom, it's just, like, it makes me so happy watching it. And it's the kind of movie that I can just see myself just returning to again and again. The fact that I saw that teaser trailer for it, where it's literally just like, Colombia. And I'm just like, I'm sold. This looks awesome. And it ended up being awesome. It ended up living up to my expectations. That doesn't often happen with, translating hype for teaser trailers to the real, the actual movie. But this, I could tell right away there was something special about this movie right from the teaser trailer. And I was right. And I think this thing is going to have a real legacy behind it, even beyond the we don't talk about Bruno memes and whatnot. So, yeah, I just unequivocally love this film. All right, Dragon. Hold on, let me get to the comments here really quick. I think instead of a sequel, it needs a Day in the Life TV series. Possibly. I assume you're talking about Encanto. I could see that. I could definitely see a TV series for Encanto for sure. I think that's honestly the next logical step to go with it. Bold statement. Ming Lee from Turning Red was a better antagonistic parental figure that's not really a villain than Abuela was. But that could be something for a debate. I would consider it. I think there's pros and cons to both. I do. My only complaint is that it feels like it wraps up a bit quickly, and I think it needed some post-credits epilogue scene. But again, my cousin is friends with Luisa. So what do I know? I assume your cousin is friends with the voice actress who plays Luisa, and that's awesome.
No, it's the actual Luisa, Tiki. You want to get with it, man.
So yeah, that's definitely I can definitely see the complaints about it wrapping up quickly, but for me, I love that last song. I love how all the character arcs wrap up. There's some moments in that last song that just genuinely make me tear up every time. I think the most powerful moment from that last song is when Abuela comes in and she's like, and I'm sorry I held on so tight. And then you see the reactions to the, Mirabelle's mother and, oh God, what's her fucking name? The rain lady, Peppa. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You see their reactions like, oh my God, my mom is finally opening up to me. Like, this is what I've wanted to hear my whole life. Like, I don't know, Drake, there's a lot of emotional catharsis going on in that last scene.
Yeah, I got a question about Encanto.
Okay.
Why is the house breaking again? And why is the candle going out all of a sudden?
Moving on. What's your number 6?
Really? You don't know?
I don't have a solid explanation for that, Dragon. You're putting me on the spot.
I mean, dang it, I'm not really asking like an in-depth character. I'm just wondering why is the house breaking?
Dragon, again, I don't really have a solid explanation.
All right. Okay.
I really don't. I'm sorry.
Right,
I think because the family's dysfunctional.
I mean, I guess, but right? Okay. So, number 6. Pinocchio! Pinocchio! Anyway. So, yes, Pinocchio. This one, again, I kept wavering in and out. It was original was number 5, and I went back, and I was like, oh, God. Like, the point being, Pinocchio, probably the best Walt made, or at least, most hands-on Walt film, I'd say. It's just kind of like this pure story of a man who essentially prays for a son. He wishes upon a star for a son, and there's something really kind of beautiful and pure in that. And it's just chock full of clever animation, at every turn with this the morality. And I love the morality tale at play going on here left and right with kind of our stories where it's like, hey, he's Jiminy Cricket as the conscience and everything. Basically, we have the biggest kind of scene that demonstrates the morality tale of it all being Pleasure Island, which is the most memorable, horrifying sequence in Pinocchio. Which again, you go into Pinocchio, oh look, it's the movie where the little puppet boy, and it's like, oh my God, it's gotten so dark, like Mama, and he turns into a donkey. That's horrifying. God. So, the animation, suffice to say, the animation holds up ridiculously well. Like, it just like literally, it's like not like, again, the early Disney films, you could see every penny on the screen, and it just looked astonishing, it looked beautiful. And I think Pinocchio might have been like the best animated Walt era film, quite possibly. I know a lot of people say Fantasia. I'm sure, maybe they're not wrong. I mean, again, they're not wrong. But
I honestly say Bambi, but it's a moot point.
Well, fine. That's what
I think those 3 are all fantastic, and they're all kind of like up there.
That's what I'm saying. At the very least, I'd say maybe Pinocchio is the best story-driven of the bunch.
Oh, I would definitely say Pinocchio's got the best story of the bunch. I'll agree with you there.
So yeah, as long as you get kind of like a good trifecta going on there between your characters, your story, and your animation. Anyway, so again, the animation holds up. I mean, ultimately, Pinocchio, it's funny. It's very touching in places, and I just think there's like a universal quality to Pinocchio for the kids in the audience. Like, you're going to learn like right from wrong, and you're going to do what your father says. And the boy goes on a journey, and he's basically kind of have to earn the human experience to a degree. It's you basically have to learn what it is to be human before you are human, and also like to the degree where it gets away with like the class again, a movie that is so kind of grounded in the animation style and the approach that you can get away with cartoony logic because it's built up so much credibility of like, so he has like a bubble on his head when he goes underwater. I don't even think he has a bubble. I mean, he just goes underwater, right? But anyway, he's a dummy, so yeah, he would be able to. So you kind of get away with it. I think Jiminy Cricket had like the bubble on his head, what have you, whatever. So you kind of get away with it. So it's because ultimately, you can do whatever you want. You can go big. Like, he gets eaten by a whale. He gets eaten by Monstrum, but we legitimize it by having Monstrum look amazing, and we end. We have like it leads up to like the ultimate happy ending. Jiminy Cricket singing the famous song, and like he's turned to a real boy. Credits. It works.
Okay, well said. Well said.
Now we're getting like 3 versions
let's
of
see.
it in 1 year.
ZK says it took the most liberties from the book. but they work out for the better,
Mhm.
which most other adaptations haven't learned.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree, actually. Let's see. All right, so Dragon, we're in the top 5, baby. Top 5.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so Dragon, my number 5. This is a movie where it's like it was kind of like for me, I was kind of wavering between this and Encanto in the number 5 spot. Eventually, I kind of leaned Encanto out of the top 5, mostly because I didn't want to veer too much into recency bias with Encanto. But also, Dragon, I hate to say it, but the passing of a recent icon is kind of the thing that tipped it over the edge, where it's like, oh, this needs to be in the top 5 now, and that's Aladdin.
Mm.
Because like, yeah, after Gilbert Gottfried died, I was like, yeah, there's no way I'm not putting this in the top 5. Um, Aladdin, it's really interesting because it's got such a pulpy tone to it, right? Like, I feel like it does kind of stand out from the other Renaissance films, where it's way more of like, it is a musical and it's got great songs, but it's equal parts like just a sheer kind of swashbuckling action adventure too. And I think that marriage of the action adventure with the musical, with the romance, it all works so well. Of course, Jafar is a great villain, great presence. Genie, just fucking Genie. Just what else? What else needs to be said? I love the look of Agrabah as a city. I always have, even as a kid. I always dug the lighting. I dug the architecture. I really love kind of like that sort of Vegas feel that it has. I don't know, man. This movie is just, it really does kind of fire on all cylinders for me as a Disney movie. And honestly, the only reason why it's not higher on the list for me is just because, like, at this point, we are going into like some super duper, like, deeply personal movies for me. And Aladdin definitely has the personal attachment via Iago and the genie for sure. But I feel like the other movies are just kind of like more just like the movies that really, really shaped me, like shaped my identity, shaped my sense of humor, shaped the way that I view myself, shaped the way that I view art. So with that in mind, I think this is a very noble top 5 entry, started the top 5. I wish I could put it higher, but you know it, you love it. It's just a great standby for a reason, and that's about all I have to say about it. Really quick, let's see. Z&K says, biggest nitpick: what happened to Figaro and Cleo during the Monstro trace? They appear and disappear so much between shots. Yeah, they do.
Yeah, Pinocchio. Like, I remember when Geppetto's hat catches on fire, you'll notice it disappears and reappears constantly.
One of the final sets from Pinocchio is a display at the American Museum of Motion Pictures. Neat to see. That's cool. That's cool. ZK says the color palette for this is gorgeous. It helps make the atmosphere feel like a vintage, monotone, silent film, the 1924 Thief of Baghdad or Prince of Ahmed with a 1930s style musical. Yeah, totally, totally. Okay, Dragon. Yeah, let's get right into it. What is your number 5?
The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Hunchback. Okay, I had a feeling this was coming. All right.
Oh yeah. Again, I kind of agonized over. Again, the top 5 is definitely the hardest part of the list. Let's be honest. Um, so yeah, this was tough to rank because I truly, I've always adored this film, man. I love The Hunchback of Notre Dame. I do. I think Quasimodo is one of the best Disney leads ever. He's a very unconventional lead. Now you rarely see like a Quasimodo type leading your Disney film. Like, because one, we usually go with the Disney princess, but even beyond that, usually we have like clean cut chaps, and rarely do we usually use like kids like pulling swords from stones and stuff like that. Um, so I don't know. It's just I mean, for me, my favorite "I Want" song is "Out There." I've always loved that song. For me, I was always like the biggest. Like, it like gets you in the place you want to be when you're rooting for Quasimodo. Just that used to be out there for a day, and when he does, and it's like, oh my god! And then of course, when it goes all wrong, it's the most horrifying thing you've ever seen. Where he's like, the sky goes red, and they're throwing tomatoes at him, and it's like, dear God,
Patrick
what?
Starr's there.
Yeah, yep.
He is the most like distracting thing in this movie outside of the gargoyles.
Anyway, well, remember he plays like a full on character in Gargoyles, though.
I know.
Anyway, so I mean, there's a lot of really great stuff like in the movie, like a lot of great little touches. Like I love the whole fact that Quasimodo has this like little mock-up, like wooden mock-up of the city of Paris, and he basically have like these great shots where he kind of play with the perspective.
Quasi is basically a model enthusiast.
Which that me, I love a good model, so that definitely helps. It did.
I feel like that calls back to Walt Disney a little bit.
Yeah, I buy that. Yeah, I mean Disney with the trend, I could make the leap that he was a model guy because they had to build all those models. I'm sure you got a kick.
Dragon, Walt Disney took his miniature seriously, man.
Yeah,
that man loved his miniatures. Make no mistake.
I mean, let's be honest. How cool miniatures are awesome, though, right?
They are very awesome. Storybook Land at Disney is like unironic. Disneyland is unironically one of my favorite attractions there.
Where's Kevin Walktail when you need him?
Anyway. Oh God, can you imagine if welcome to the Storybook Land canal boats, sponsored by Mesa Verde.
Yep, and check out the Mesa Verde Model Pavilion.
Oh my God, dude!
Right. Decades of the cowboy branch. Anyway, no, seriously, I just love that we kind of rack focus from like, we kind of transition from him looking at the models to him looking down like they are models. Like touches like that go a long way. Obviously, the biggest thing with Hunchback, the Disney villain unequivocally is Tony Jay as Judge Claude Frollo. Just there's such a cruelty and like a genuine, like realistic, like cruelty and the self-righteousness, and he looks crazy wearing all black, and he's got a big poofy hat, and he's just the fact that like he killed the boy's mother at the top, pursuing her because she was a gypsy, and it's the bitter, cruel irony that he has lustful thoughts for a gypsy, and the fact that he's like in this really warped father-son relationship with Quasimodo, and I love that so much, and I love Tony Jay's performance of that, and obviously the climax of Hunchback, I love how he built up like, him just kind of tolerating Quasimodo and this sort of like this master servant kind of thing, more than a father son thing. It kind of builds to this moment of like a Frollo playing it like I raised you like a father, essentially, during the action sequence as he's like about to stab him in the hunch. It's just a fantastic climax, but even beyond that, again, you have Hellfire, you have all sorts of like I love the songs in Hunchback, even the song everyone doesn't like, but I love A Guy Like You. I really like that song.
That's like the most controversial thing you've said this whole process.
That's what I'm saying, though. But how controversially, I like this. Like
A Guy Like You.
Anyway. So yeah, I don't know. It's a delightful
I still
song.
think A Guy Like You is a little fucked up, given that they're basically like egging him on to something that is not going to happen.
Well, again, they're optimistic. They don't really. They don't know the whole Phoebus.
Okay, I'll give A Guy Like You this, Dragon. I'll give it this. It is not as bad as Fixer Upper.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, Fixer Upper. I mean, look, I'm saying I think there are worse songs of Fixer Uppers. Like, yeah, we really don't need that in that movie.
I feel like A Guy Like You was misguided. Fixer Upper was straight up malicious.
I mean, look, the thing with I think ideologically, a Fixer Upper is a lot more wrong-headed than.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
A Guy Like You is like it's almost like the Jewish.
A Guy Like You is like, yeah, they're cheering on their buddies, But anyways,
like A Guy Like You is kind of like the Jew. Like, you're so pretty, get out there, meet somebody.
God, it is the Jewish mother song. Jesus Christ!
But that's the thing.
We never looked at it that way, Dragon. But you're absolutely right.
So that's the thing. Ultimately,
Rob, tell your mom that A Guy Like You is the Jewish mother song. I want to know her reaction. All right.
So regardless, A Guy Like You, it's just, the idea is like they're trying to cheer him up, which is building him up for a crushing fall, in which you, the audience, are going to think, oh, when he rips that little playing card in half, it's like, oh. But then again, I mean, the problem is
the playing card with the heart on it.
Yeah. The sad thing, the unfortunate thing is like, well, again, I love the gargoyles for a moment like that in the movie. It's like we have the clever conceit of the gargoyles, which then like, hey, they're interacting during the fights and like, no, 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 what happened? No, cut that out of the movie. That's not supposed to be there. No, no. Like they're not supposed to interact. Yeah, it ruins the whole idea, the Victor Hugo of it all. Come on, guys. Why? Anyway. So again, I love ultimately Hunchback. It's got an operatic scale, which lends a realism to it as well. It's like we can go operatic with like Frollo having this wonderfully trippy, just kind of like hallucinatory, just kind of like all of his self-righteous, self-imposed, like kind of like dutiful, like I'm going to be like the guy, the moral arbiter of everything. I decide what's
going to take advantage of the gypsy because it is my rightful duty as a man of God.
Basically, I'm going to either set her on fire or she's going to go on.
It's so twisted, man. Like it's legitimately like an R-rated movie's villain plot.
That's what I'm saying. There's like a dark realism to Hunchback, but also there's like that operatic scale, which is kind of adds. But again, it's operatic because
it's literally operatic. It's got the literal like chorus.
That's what I mean, Tiki. Is the fact that look at our setting. How can we not be operatic? It's Notre Dame. It's the church. Like the church. And anyway, so again, it's the ultimately. I think I like Hunchback because it's the ultimate underdog. It's the ultimate outcast and underdog story in that regard. So
I like how Notre Dame is like it is. It's like the church. It's like the Disney World of churches.
It's like what is it? You got that, and you have the one in New York. Those are the churches.
I wouldn't consider the Vatican a church, right?
Oh no, that's a third one. Well, Vatican's like a city, though. Would you count?
Right. Yeah, it's a little.
That's why I didn't think of it because the Vatican's more like anyway. It's either the city or like the Pope's giant house, however you want to look at it. I mean, the Pope pretty much owns the Vatican City. Let's be honest.
Oh God.
Anyway, so again, there's a whole lot to love with Hunchback, and basically, it's a question how much can you tolerate the gargoyles? But it's a fantastic film. I love it. I'd rewatch it any day of the week if it came on.
Monkey says St. Patrick's in New York is indeed stunning inside.
Yep.
I would also say Grace Cathedral in San Francisco is stunning, but that's me being biased.
Yeah, you get to a point where it's like a church kind of been there, done them all after a certain point, after the biggies.
Grace Cathedral, though. Grace Cathedral is, that's something else. Anyways, I'm probably biased because there's a December song about that church that I love. All right. Okay, let's see. I'm just trying to get to some comments. Hold on. Okay, we got a few comments, so I'm just gonna power through them really quick, Dragon. Z&K says when The Lion King and Beauty and the Beast went on 2-disc DVD with the new animated song sequences, you can imagine how disappointed I was when Aladdin went to DVD. They promoted Proud of Your Boy in all the commercials, yet they only gave it a Clay Aiken music video. I remember this. I was hoping for something to be reanimated. Shame on you, marketing and executives. Dragon, do you remember the Clay Aiken Proud of Your Boy?
I remember that. I remember it as like a storyboard, though. They didn't actually animate it or anything.
They didn't animate it. It was a storyboard, I think. I think they did have a storyboard of it.
Yeah, I've seen like the storyboard with, I believe, the Clay Aiken song, but I did not really,
All right, let's see. Hold on.
When Frollo hits the molten lava.
I'm losing to a burn.
God.
Let's see.
I should have worn sunscreen.
Monkey says I was just about to quip that Quasimodo made Storybook Land. Oh yeah, miniatures are the greatest. ZMK's been working on a map of Sesame Street, including every different spot to make one day into a model. That's going off topic. And all right, I think we're done. Dragon, would you classify Remy as an artist?
Was a culinary artist. I mean,
I would. I think. I mean, as far as passion goes, I think Remy is like top tier.
Well, you know what makes him an artist? I mean, like obviously there's a few things, but I'm saying I think one thing kind of like necessitates, like you could label him an artist. Is look at how he presented the ratatouille. He presented in the way that he's not really because ordinarily it's made like a stew, but he presented like in the awesome kind of foldy bowl thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So let's see. Let's move on
to, oh dear God. Okay, Dragon, my number 4 was impossible to rank, or my top 4. My top 4 was impossible to rank.
Well, again, T, I'm saying the top 5 are impossible to rank.
For me, Aladdin was a pretty steady top 5, number 5 pick. These 4, man, I have them nailed down. I have had them nailed down for a while, but it's going to be painful. All right. Oh God, my number 4. I can't believe it's going off the list. By all accounts, it doesn't make any sense.
Oh.
It's The Emperor's New Groove.
Tiki, you're not going to believe this.
That's your number 4?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, Emperor's New Groove.
Yeah, okay, that's fun that we have this in the same spot.
And that's the thing. It was basically, and I wonder if you had this, dude. It's literally just kind of like a process of elimination. That's literally what I had to do for the top 5. I had to okay, do I like this more than that? And well, okay, so if I can't put that there, I have to put this there. And I was like, well, Emperor's New Groove. It's literally, it's not that Emperor's New Groove couldn't be. For me, the top 5, any one of them, for me, I could have made the argument for them being number 1, if I'm being frank. But then
I could have made the argument for Emperor's New Groove being number 1.
Exactly.
I really could have.
So it's amazing given the behind the scenes of this film. This film turned out as well as it did. Let's be honest.
Totally.
There. I mean, that's one of the most remarkable things about Emperor's New Groove, the whole Kingdom of the Sun story. Which again, folks, check out the Sweatbox documentary. # forget the Snyder Cut. Well, # restore the Sweatbox. Anyway, come on, Disney.
I'm sorry. Emperor's New Groove to me. It absolutely, like, the comedy, man. That's what this movie's all
Probably
about.
The funniest
what it delivers.
Yeah, the funniest Disney film.
I honestly think it's legitimately like one of the funniest movies ever made, just Disney or not. I think it's just like it is so top tier as far as like the gags go. I mean, it's Dragon. I can quote every fucking inch of this thing.
Yeah, Mark Dindal, just seriously a really underrated director. He does a lot of great work, and like between this and Cats Don't Dance, I mean, the guy has a great comedy sensibility and like a reverence for how to do comedy and animation. He basically his timing's impeccable with things, and this is just such a fantastic buddy movie. I mean, John Goodman, while it is hilarious and the lines are extremely quotable and still quotable, the whole box. The whole box thing of it all, like a flea, and I'll put him in a box. I'll mail him.
That is to me the best gag in the movie, and I have just like endlessly quoted it. I can quote every line of it, just without any effort at all. It's just embedded into my skull. Yeah.
I mean, think about how bold Emperor's New Groove was, Tiki, in that we're gonna give you this phenomenal arc. It's a gutsy thing to give Cusco the arc that we gave him. Like, we're gonna start him out of the movie so unlikable. I want to say it's the first time they did an unlikable character arc in a Disney film. I think.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and I remember the ad campaign went pretty hard about like this guy's a jerk.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course they cast they cast David Spade, which is perfect casting for that sort of thing, in which David Spade can be very sardonic.
I genuinely think this is the best cast Disney movie.
So our cast is utter perfection, which you have all 4 of the main players. There's 4 pillars that hold up the movie tremendous,
and they're all just absolutely fucking just phenomenally perfect.
Absolutely. Again, Patrick Warburton in particular. I mean, my God, Kronk is
Patrick Warburton is, yeah. I mean, this is the thing, Drake. It's like every element of this movie just works so well. Warburton, of course, is wonderful, and he's so magnetic and he's so quotable. But I feel like his character would not work if it wasn't for Yzma. Like, Yzma is also she is such a great counterpoint to Kronk.
It is. Again, our duos are fantastic, and it's so great you can have them interact with each other. Like any combination is going to still bring out something kind of fun. But seriously, Kronk and Yzma.
Honestly, one of my favorite stops in this movie is when when Kronk and Yzma are interacting with Pacha's family.
Yes. Oh, I know. I love that Kronk is charming the heck out of the family, and Yzma's the glutton for punishment turns into a pinata,
instantly turning into like a beloved family friend.
He's Yzma's like the pinata, and he's kind of walks out like he's been there, like you just stop, like he's the favorite uncle. Like, oh, we should do this again sometime. Hey, Kronk, I gotta go. It's just delightful. But I mean, here's the thing, though. So seriously, while we have the comedy is just utterly flawless with those dynamics at play, though, I think the reason this is so high up for me, at least, and why it could have easily been higher, is that while this film is in a very unique position, what we do with John Goodman in the Buddy movie arc and how we use, Pacha as the heart of the film and how he brings out kind of like the friendship and the trust that develops, in his unconventional, this very unconventional story of man turns into llama and gets redeemed. In that story, it brings out, the John Debney score and everything. Like, I am so in Pacha's corner when he's walking home after, he's just keeping it to himself. The meeting didn't go well, and his house on the hill that his family's lived in for generations is in danger. And it's like, as broad and fun as we can go with the comedy, the core Disney values are so represented so flawlessly and in a real and believable way we hadn't quite done up to that point before. We've had glimpses of it in moments, but not really just to like that center stage. I mean, I really think Emperor's New Groove raised the bar for Disney storytelling, and it kind of like. Do you remember how well Emperor's New Groove did in theaters? Like, I think it did better on home video than it did in theaters.
I mean, I think it did better than like the likes of Atlantis and Treasure Planet, but I didn't set the world on fire by any means.
Well, that's the thing. It's just the fact, like, when you say Emperor's New Groove is underrated or think that it get like the proper reception,
it was certainly underrated for a time. I feel like right now, it is very properly rated. I feel like people hold it in a very high regard for good reason.
I guess just to reflect for a moment, because a lot of the films, we probably have left are kind of in this camp anyway. Just with that period, like that early 2000s, like kind of the last remnants of the 2D animation for a while. We did have a lot of films, particularly Emperor's New Groove. I mean, it's a shame that we just lumped it. Disney's wrong-headed thinking at that time is lump in like the box office numbers for like if we should go back to this well and do what's working in these films. And it's a shame because like a lot of really good stuff came out of these films that again like challenged like the way things were done. It's like, let's bring it back to what the core values were, but let's just kind of redress it in a way no one's ever seen before, and that would really engage people and really kind of bring them in. And it's kind of a shame that they kind of got distracted. Like, let's present it in a whole different way, and that gives us Chicken Little. And that's wrong. That's what I'm saying. It's like we were on the precipice of some really good stuff, and like, yeah, maybe it didn't turn out like a big box office number, but maybe we should have stuck with it instead of just changing the game to keep up with the changing times.
So, Dragon, I actually think I'm going to keep you on your toes, and I'm going to switch up the order. What's your number 3?
Really?
Yep.
All right. My number 3 is Lilo and Stitch.
So is mine.
Well, get out of here! Really?
I'm not kidding. That's crazy.
That was a fruitless exercise then, but okay.
I know, right?
Yes, so Lilo and Stitch. So this one was impossible to rank. Am I right?
Yes, it was. Absolutely.
So I have an analogy.
I think in this top 10, it unequivocally has like the Dragon. I don't want to talk too much about the autism stuff in this movie because I will be talking about that tomorrow night.
I figured you want to do that, yeah.
Yeah, suffice to say, it's incredibly powerful for me, just on a deeply, deeply emotional level. Like, there is a reason that Stitch in the Ugly Duckling is the thing that I chose to get a tattoo of. I do not take that tattoo lightly. Go ahead.
So I kind of happened upon this analogy for Lilo and Stitch, looking back on in preparation for the anniversary thing. Is that it's Lilo and Stitch, I think ultimately it's like the successful, like well marketed, like with all the proper like marketing and like support from the studio behind it. It's like the successful Iron Giant of the Disney catalog. It's like what if Iron Giant were successful in that? It's a movie that's kind of like it's unconventional, it's out of left field, it's just kind of perfect in every way. It kind of represents the medium very well. And again, it is kind of like, it has a very memorable art style and kind of setting that you don't see every day. I mean, again, it's like not in the 50s, but if it were in the 50s, you could say it's very much in kind of like the MANT category, the matinee category, like Iron Giant is with the paranoia of it all. One could say, I know it's a very odd kind of thing to pull in right now, but I'm just saying kind of like with Iron Giant having a very unique kind of like out of the way setting, you kind of have that with the Kauai, Island of Kauai on Hawaii thing.
Yeah, there's so many things that make this movie special to me. I think Lilo might be the most like realistic kid character that Disney's ever done. Just the way that she's depicted is honestly just super tragic for me in a lot of ways.
Yeah. I mean, I just love with Lilo and Stitch, we just took two story guys who knew what they were doing in the back half of the Renaissance, which is always the underreported part of the Renaissance. And it's like, hey, let's give them a movie, and we did that. And we got like a lot of really left field choices that just kind of played super well. Just kind of led to like a sweet spot of an idea zone for this film. Tiki, Ultimate Lilo and Stitch is a movie about broken people fixing each other, which is a really inspiring idea, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I will admit, Dragon, this movie did not sell me originally when I was a kid seeing the ad campaign. For two reasons. Number one, I thought it was a pretty typical, like, oh, it's basically like, like a girl and her dog, but the dog's an alien. That's a pretty typical premise. I've seen a lot of dog movies, and this just basically
like literally the trailer would have been like, oh, she goes to the kennel, but they're all scared of the alien dog.
Exactly. And then right now, like in the modern day context, I think the trailers with Stitch going in and just wrecking shit with the other Disney movies is brilliant. It is. But at the time, I kind of like that gave me like a sort of a negative idea of what this movie was going to be, of like, basically it was going to be like, this ain't your grandfather's Disney. This is the hip, new, edgy Disney. So yeah, but of course, I will say that one of my personal things that I am attached to with this film is that I think most people who know me on a personal level know this, is that I saw this film in theaters exactly before I went to Disneyland for the first time, like the day before. And so, having said that, Dragon, I mean, it sticks in my mind. Like, Disneyland and this movie are like so synonymous with each other. It's crazy. And of course, at Disneyland, I fell in love with the Tiki Room. That's how I got the name Tiki. So this movie is very important to my life. It really is. What other movies could be up there that are more important than this? We shall see.
Don't you kind of wish you, in particular, you could go back in time? Basically, if you could travel through time, you could take the young Tiki who went to the Disney parks for the first time and send him a few years. Well, I guess I don't have to call it a few years. I think it was 2008, but I could be wrong. Like you fast forward him to Stitch's Great Escape and have him go on that ride. Can you imagine? Well, go and see that attraction. I mean, the whole.
I mean, Stitch's Great Escape is not a great attraction, Dragon. So
no. I'm saying, I know that. I'm saying, like, to the kid who's going there for the first time, who just saw Lilo and Stitch, and take him to that.
Right. Well, what's funny, Dragon, is the experience I did have of that I absolutely would do with my younger self. I think this is probably a better example, is when I first saw Cars for the first time in theaters, and there was that the Sunday drive scene where they drive up to the waterfall. That was my moment of like, this should be in California Adventure. This would make a really good location, specifically in California Adventure. And then lo and behold, about 10 years later, Cars Land opens, and that waterfall is like a big centerpiece of Radiator Springs Racers.
Like the moment young Tiki is saying this, like you hear like the DeLorean just kind of speed up, and out of it, Tiki and Leonard Maltin wearing sunglasses.
I mean, at the moment, for me, Dragon, the casita from Encanto is my whole like, this needs to be in the parks. So we'll see.
I'll just give it about 10 years.
Right. All right, yeah, Lilo and Stitch, the one thing I will say, the one thing that keeps this down from the top two for me, Dragon, and for me, I consider the top two to just be unequivocally, like, fucking perfect films. Like, nothing wrong with them whatsoever, nothing I can nitpick, they're just perfect. Is, I think the Jumba and Pleakley stuff can get a little bit grating.
Oh, come on!
Places.
No, it's not.
I do.
Think you're crazy, but they're like, hey, I want to try on the wig. Like, no, like that's hilarious.
I like them. I just feel like they're not the best element of the movie. Obviously, the best element of the movie is the Nani and Lilo stuff. So honestly, Captain Gantu too. Like, I feel like Captain Gantu actually gets more to do. Like, he gets a more fully rounded character in the Lilo and Stitch spin-off stuff. I feel like in this movie, he's just basically just like a cool design who's there to just kind of like provide a third act chase scene.
Right.
I mean, Cobra Bubbles, though. Cobra Bubbles is an amazing, like, quote-unquote villain.
I have so many nice things to say about Cobra Ball.
I know you do.
Don't have time.
Dragon's just like, tomorrow, Tiki, tomorrow.
Oh man, there are things a lot. That's the frustrating thing about this dumb list, man. Is that again, I want to talk about Lilo and Stitch, but I can't say all the good stuff right now.
All right.
Because the marketing was great.
Let's move on then. Let's move on because clearly we're going to talk about Lilo and Stitch more tomorrow.
Let's just say clearly there's like a spin-off series and 3 sequels and an anime for a reason.
Okay. And literally a tattoo on my arm. I permanently etched it into my body.
Like you always say, imagine like if anyone asks you if you ever just for some reason turned on Lilo and Stitch. It was I was. It was a drunken mistake one night.
Dragon, what if Lilo and Stitch has like a Proud Boys situation at some point?
Well, don't say that because then it's gonna happen.
No, that'd be the worst case scenario for my tattoo, bro.
It's like Stitch becomes like a mecca for some hate organization somewhere.
Well, did you know that Mac Tonight is currently going through that?
Wait, you mean like the crescent face moon guy?
Yes, the moon. Yes.
Wait. Is there
the moon is a symbol for the hate speech people now, Dragon?
That can't possibly. That's a real thing.
I swear to God, it's a real thing.
Oh, it'd be funny if they tattooed like him holding a knife, so it's like the whole Mac the Knife song, but it's like, yeah, oh we're edgy. I'll cut you with my moon face. All
right, and with that, we move on to my number 2. Wait, you know what, Dragon? I want to end with my number 1 because I feel like my number 1 is going to be an out of left field choice in a really good way. So let's get to your number 2.
Okay, so the thing I agonized over most is I knew what my number 1 and my number 2 was going to be. Because Lilo and Stitch, I always kind of had at number 3, but I was like, I sifted through it, see if there was an argument to be made, and ultimately it's just kind of like the top 3 is impossibly hard to arrange. So number 2, I kind of reached this thing where I think deep in my bones, I think number 2 is maybe my favorite, but I don't know. I think the arguments are made for number 1 being where it's at. So number 2. Tarzan.
Tarzan. Yeah. All right.
Tarzan could have really very easily been number 1. I had a lot of love for Tarzan. I got huge love for it. I always have because basically this is again is Disney doing the definitive adaptation of Tarzan. Like, this is the Tarzan that sold me. This is everything I like about the character. I mean, from a visual standpoint, from a story standpoint, it's again we've taken a classic literary character and he's very well represented here. And unfortunately, apparently it's like a lightning in the bottle situation where, again, apparently we're just going to Disney's for some reason we still don't have like the Legend of Tarzan series on Disney Plus, and it might be because the Edgar Rice Burroughs estate, even though I think they technically have like the TV movie there, which baffles me if that's the case. The TV movie basically being it's 3 episodes from the show put together, which is ridiculous. Regardless, so the movie, I mean, it starts off very grim. Like we kill off the parents and we kill off, a baby ape, with Colin Kerchak. It's just there's such a compelling character in Tarzan, which you have a character there's such humanity in this character who missed out on humanity and being raised as a gorilla, which is just a really fascinating, kind of dichotomy between those two ideas. It's between those two sides of himself. And, the Kerchak conflict is, I think, relatable for a lot of people. And I think just people always are kind of button heads of relatives. What if you literally did that in like kind of like a primal kind of ape sort of thing? Like he's really button heads with Kerchak in that, he wants to please Kerchak, but he's the adopted son for the son that got killed. And again, they're very linked fascinatingly by, how their lives are both impacted by this leopard, and Tarzan gets to kill the leopard, which is great. I really dig the love story. I always have. I like Jane and Tarzan's. Like I love their meet cute so much. It's a little funny, and then it gets to like a really sweet, genuine place where he kind of sees a human for the first time. And my favorite scene always in Tarzan is my favorite sequence in Tarzan. Probably my favorite scene, honestly. It's "Strangers Like Me." I just love that whole. You've seen the montage.
"Strangers Like Me" is such a bop, man.
I'm sorry,
it's such a good song.
Right? Yes, it is.
It's such a bop, is what I said.
Yeah. So, here's the thing. A lot of people are always rag on the Phil Collins of it all, which I think is better saved for Brother Bear than it is this film. But
and even in Brother Bear, I like those songs. I'm not gonna lie.
It's like I have. I mean, this is not a good argument. Like for it's not like it's more like a preferential thing. I'm not saying the song is necessarily bad. It's just like I cringe a little at the "You'll Be in My Heart" song because it feels just so Radio Disney to me. It's like
You'll Be in My Heart is absolutely Radio Disney.
that's
For
what I'm
sure,
saying.
for
It's like a
sure.
thing where like
It
I
was
love
total Oscar bait. Yeah.
where I love the scene and what's going on in it, and it's like I mean I guess in a different context it's a nice song, but it's like it's for me when I'm in the zone watching the movie, it's like oh man, it's so Radio Disney, it makes me feel all cringy. But yeah, it's just I love just there's just so much of this movie. I just think again, Strangers Like Me is like the ultimate montage of him kind of like learning the ways of man and kind of be falling in love with Jane. We accomplish a lot. It's got striking visuals, and we see. I love the bits where he's kind of rushing off, and his mother's getting a little sad because she kind of sees the writing on the wall that he's going off, and he's kind of being distanced from her, but she's not like holding it against him. Like in Glenn Close, amazing as Kala. The Clayton showdown in the death of Kerchak is just utterly gobsmackingly good. I mean, when Clayton's a death is one thing, and just how intense that sequence is, and how we kind of mirrored him to the leopard from earlier. And again, all this leads into the show,
which sticks out to me about Clayton's death has always been how desperate Tarzan is to avoid it.
Yeah, and the fact that again, Tarzan's not trying to kill him at all.
Right,
either.
right.
Which we had that bit where Tarzan's holding the gun, which is always a striking moment. He just broke that gun, man. It was awesome. I love when Tarzan breaks the guns. It's like when Batman breaks the guns. I love it. But yeah, that's the thing. So this Tarzan is again. There was such a great sell for this character in this world and everything. Just the Edgar Rice Burroughs. It basically made me kind of a fan of like what Edgar Rice Burroughs was doing in a lot of his work. And I love that a lot of this bled into the Legend of Tarzan series, which essentially adapted like a lot of like Edgar Rice Burroughs ideas and just kind of expanded that universe even more. But not even factor in the show. I think the movie still stands on its own very well, and it's just like a great. It's a great way to bring people into this character. I just think it was just a wonderful statement on this. The fact that we don't, much like Lilo and Stitch, it's kind of like we don't make him like this anymore, sort of thing. Like we really went for it. It's like we usually make him in a box.
I just feel like we don't have the pathos that we do with these kind of movies anymore.
Pathos. I mean,
even something like Encanto, as much as I love it, it still leans way more into the comedy of the characters than this movie does.
I mean, Tiki, that's the thing. I think we were just kind of like when we look back on it, like we're doing right now. It's we were spoiled with pathos at a time, and now we got into a point where pathos is so hard to crack and so hard to come upon again and again, like we did almost consistently for a brief spell.
I mean, don't get me wrong, Encanto has pathos.
Yes, I know it. I'm just saying for a movie that has pathos from the jump, or like foundational pathos.
Sure.
And that's the thing. I mean, Tarzan, again, it's like the fact that we went against the grain. We're not just doing a fairy tale. It's like, hey, we're reaching back into kind of like really kind of steeped in history and literature. And we're kind of like, I don't know. It's just like, it's like a rare approach that they took that just kind of felt really unique and really different. It's like again, it's like one of those against the grain Disney films I just love so much. And also again, like it kind of leads into again we have like Chris Buck on this, and he goes off to do some other really cool stuff down the line. It's it all worked out.
Cool. All right, so we've got some comments here. Let's see. Okay, regarding Emperor's New Groove, Z&K says, I'd love to see something like a recobble cut for Kingdom of the Sun. That would be very intriguing if they ever could do that.
I mean, that would be. I mean, they have like the Owen Wilson dialogue. I mean,
yeah. Dragon, what do you think of this? I mean, there's one obvious thing that we can't do. We can't have Eartha Kitt. But David Spade, John Goodman, Patrick Warburton in the live-action Emperor's New Groove.
Well, are you sure they're talking about that, or...?
Yeah, I'm sure they are. Yeah,
I just want to make sure. I mean, yeah. Obviously, you'd have to recast. I mean, I believe I forget if it was you who brought this up or somebody else. Like Kristen Chenoweth is like Yzma.
I could see Chenoweth. To tell you the truth, I would want to go with a black actress just to keep that tradition.
Oh, for sure. It's just like, I mean, let me ask you this. I believe is it Jennifer? Yeah, Jennifer Lewis. What do you think about her?
Maybe.
Anyway, but I
think David Spade and John Goodman are honestly both a little too old for the roles at this point.
Which bums me up, but yeah.
I think Patrick Warburton could just play Kronk forever.
He could. He absolutely.
And I would love to see Patrick Warburton as a live action Kronk.
I think if you do Emperor's New Groove, Patrick Warburton would be like your fucking James Earl Jones, except he wouldn't suck. Sorry, James.
Anyway,
Simba.
Yes.
Yes.
It's funny now. They fixed that problem in a really cool way. By the way.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, let's just say, when we hear a certain character speak, they found a way to kind of like fix the problem from Lion King.
Wait, on Disney Plus, you mean?
All right. Well, I'm just gonna tell you then. On Obi-Wan, when Darth Vader speaks, they found a way to kind of make him. They found a way to make have James Earl Jones record new lines, but they.
Oh, okay, that's cool. That's cool.
So basically, they learned their lesson on Lion King and Rogue One. Like, okay, how can we fix this? In which they basically did what they did with Mark
son,
so
come to me.
So now they've actually have a way where it sounds like a young James Earl Jones.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
Anyway, but you know what though? With Emperor's New Groove, it's kind of like this thing that where I think some people have the opinion of animation. I think the old people from the old school are like, you should only animate what you can't do in live action. And I think a lot of people like Brad Bird, on the other hand, are like, let's do let's do what we can do in live action animation.
I mean, style is style, dude.
I know style is style. I'm just saying that.
No, I'm saying I'm on your side.
Yeah. So and with that in mind, it just kind of speaks to, if we did it in live action, I mean, it's kind of like takes maybe a little bit away from what was special about the Emperor's New Groove, is that we kind of had like kind of a comedy that we.
I wouldn't really. The only thing that I would maybe just want to see a Kronk movie.
Well, we already kind of did that though.
Well, no, but I mean, like, maybe like the Emperor's New Groove from Kronk's perspective or something like that. I would not want a full-on remake of Emperor's New Groove.
That's what I'm saying.
Patrick Warburton as Kronk as the lead.
Tiki, I'm going to admit that is a really good take, and that's the way you probably should approach that stuff. That'd be the fresh way, like the Emperor's New Groove way of approaching that story. Let me ask you this: if they did that, would you want Mark Dindal to come back to direct that version?
I would. I mean, it would definitely not be a bad thing for him to come back.
It's like, what if, like, hey, Mark, like, we want you to, we're going to do what we've never done before. We're going to actually have the guys who made the original film come back and do it in live action, but actually have a story to tell and maybe a different angle. It's going to work.
All right, Drag, we're kind of like, I'm sorry, we need to move on from Emperor.
Well, it's not like we have one left, so go on.
I know. It's just we also have a lot of comments to get through too. So,
all right.
Z&K says, I want to save my thoughts for Lilo and Stitch when you do your 20th anniversary stream. Tomorrow, Z&K. Tomorrow.
Wrong movie.
All right. I know. After my family first went on Stitch's Great Escape, we all agreed never again. Definitive version of the Tarzan story. Johnny Weissmuller would like a word. Z&K, I would like a word with you, sir. My dad is honestly like one of the most tried and true fans of the Edgar Rice Burroughs Tarzan novels that I know. When I was a kid, he had all of them. He had the complete set. He was obsessed with the books as a kid. And that being said, he absolutely does think that the Disney Tarzan is more of a definitive take on Tarzan than the Weissmuller movies, because it got way more deep into the actual character and emotions of Tarzan than the Weissmuller.
Yeah.
So yeah, Weissmuller can eat his heart out, ZK. I'm sorry. Gertak's art reminds me of Rex from Babe. I got to admit, ZK, it's been a while since I've seen Babe, so I'm not really the character of Rex isn't really coming to me. I'm sorry. Let's see. I honestly think I'm more familiar with Babe Pig in the City just because that movie's so insane with the George Miller thing. All right. The fact that You'll Be in My Heart is both Phil singing and a character in universe singing. That's the thing that really hurts it. That's given the radio Disney feel. Dragon, I thoroughly agree. Don't you?
Agree with what specifically?
With the fact that Kala starts the song and then it transitions into Phil Collins.
Yeah, that's weird.
Z&K, this is fucking perfect, and I want it. I want it right now. Rita Moreno is Yzma.
Huh. That's good.
I want it, Dragon. I think she could kill it.
I mean, here's the thing. ZK, that's a really good idea. I don't know. I'm thinking I brought up Jennifer Lewis because I think she could play like the broad. I think she could play the comedy of these really well. I don't know.
If we were casting today, we just had if they were live action at the time in 2000.
Oh, basically saying like if we went back to the 2000s with the
Well, sure.
Okay, Rex is the Hugo Weaving father dog.
I figured it was one of the dog characters, but I'm sorry, Z, in case it's just been a while. Okay, Dragon, my number two. I mean, this isn't any surprise. Dragon, have you guessed what my number one is? Do you know what big movie has made it like very far onto my list? Do you have an idea of what it is?
Well, I mean, looking at kind of our image here, I'm going to say no.
It's not on the image. Yeah, it's not one that you have. The next two movies are not ones that you have in your top 10.
Yeah, that's the thing.
But you haven't been following along with like, okay, what has he not put up yet?
I mean, not the 60 movies, man.
Okay. I'm sorry. I was just curious if you had done the process of elimination.
I'm worrying about like where I'm going to put things. I'm not
all right. That's totally fair. That's totally fair. All right, Dragon. My number two is Fantasia.
Okay, makes sense.
Fantasia, I think, is a movie that you vibe with or you don't vibe with. There's very few people who are just like, yeah, I like Fantasia. Fantasia's good. Either you're just like Fantasia is an utter like transcendent masterpiece of animation, which is where I led on, or you're like Fantasia's boring, which I can understand. But yeah, Fantasia, Dragon, I mean, it's just like, to me, Fantasia is absolutely transformative. There is no other Disney movie that is as artistically ambitious in my mind. I mean, this is like, if you were to put one Disney movie and have every frame of it be in a museum, I think this is the one you gotta choose. I think the artistic ambition in Fantasia is just, it's staggering. It literally just gives me chills when I watch it. I think the two scenes in particular that really emphasize this are Rite of Spring, which is literally just a head trip of a sequence where it's just like, we're going to watch the very beginnings of microcosmic life evolve straight up into the death of the dinosaurs. I mean, it's literally covering like millions of years. It's crazy. And then the Night on Bald Mountain, Ave Maria. I mean, what a 1-2 punch of like going from like, you know, this classic sort of quintessential Halloween spook house segment into Ave Maria, which is just like, it's heartbreaking in its beauty. It's just utterly, just, I don't know. There's something about Ave Maria and the way it ends off and the way it transitions from Bald Mountain that is just, it gets me every time I watch it. Every time I watch it, I feel the same sort of, powerful, like overwhelming sense of calm and overwhelming sense of like, higher power. It's like, I know I sound kind of crazy, Dragon, but Ave Maria is basically kind of the closest thing that I can come to a religious experience. And yeah, I don't know. I do genuinely love Deems Taylor, and I think that is kind of a breaking point with some people. I love the orchestra. I love the ambience of the orchestra, just kind of setting up and tuning and, just playing around with their instruments. All of that, Dragon, all of that to me adds so much to the atmosphere of the film. It really does. And I feel like you need that kind of stuff. You need Deems Taylor dryly introducing us and, giving us like these musical lectures on history and music theory and all of that. I think it just adds to the package. It adds to the overall, like, this is like Disney edutainment. It's utterly most ridiculously stupidly ambitious because it is edutainment. I would absolutely make the argument for that. It is basically just like, hey, like, let's, this is essentially like a gateway drug into classical music. And it's essentially like teaching people how to appreciate classical music through the lens of kind of closing your eyes and letting the images kind of take hold of you as you watch as you listen to the classical music. And that sort of exercise, man, that has stayed with me. That is really shaped, again, like, I feel like Lilo and Stitch is like how I break down these movies, Dragon, the top three going into number one is I feel like obviously Emperor's New Groove had a big impact on my sense of humor. I still quote it to this day. It's a big pillar of my comedy sensibilities. Lilo and Stitch, for reasons that I'll be getting more into tomorrow, it's a big kind of like echo of myself as an autistic person, and I see a lot of myself in the character of Lilo and the ugly duckling symbolism and everything like that. Not to mention, I just love the Hawaii stuff and the Disneyland tie. So Lilo and Stitch is very much the personal thing. Fantasia is like the artistic side of me. It's very much like it was the movie that kind of like exploded my interest in just the arts in general, and movies not just being movies but movies being film, you know what I mean? And like so yeah, I like did Fantasia turn me into maybe a little bit of a snob? It's definitely possible.
Oh, it's more impossible, yeah.
Yeah, but I would not be the same person I am today without Fantasia. So for better or for worse, it is a towering achievement of a movie, and I love it to death. And I would say probably unequivocally, you might be surprised to hear this, considering how much we talk up like how rewatchable stuff like Emperor's New Groove is. But I will say it's probably the Disney movie I go back to the most, just because of how ambitious it is. All right. Well, then I guess Babe is the next non-Disney rewatch for you. I make no promises. I said last time, but you really do have to be in the right mindset to commit to Fantasia. Totally. First of all, I think watching Fantasia during the daytime is kind of like a fool's errand. Like you at least need it to be dark out to really appreciate it. Sorry to steal from Doug Walker again, but it's pretty much going to an art museum. Yeah, it is. It is. And I love it. All right, Dragon. So with that in mind, tell us your number one, which I already know, but tell us what it is.
All right. Yes, so number one, again, there's a lot of deliberation here, but I just kind of plugged it in almost.
I think it's a very fair number one. I really do. I'm happy with this as your number one.
So that's the thing. I agonized over this, but I kind of realized it has to be Aladdin. So Aladdin's number one, and it's because when you think about Aladdin, you kind of plug in the old formula when you're looking like where these things would go, and you kind of look at Aladdin as kind of in a vacuum when you're thinking, the top Disney films. It's that Aladdin checks all the boxes, man. Aladdin is kind of like the perfect Disney film, at least the perfect sample of what a Disney film should be. If you like the baseline, what is the baseline for what makes a great Disney film? Like it has a little bit of everything that we like in our Disney films. It's like it's the smorgasbord, it's the sampling, it's the sample platter. It's got great music. I love all the songs in Aladdin. I think they're all wonderful. The character animation is sublime, particularly all the stuff we do with the genie, with the Eric Goldberg animation. Comedy, very funny, again, in large part thanks to Robin Williams, because how can you not be? And ultimately, it's the heart of the film. I mean, the heart of the film is I think the biggest draw of all, and I think it's the connecting point between all of those elements I just mentioned. Like Aladdin and the genie's friendship is what really elates my heart when I'm watching the movie. I mean, I can't tell you, man, especially when Robin Williams passed and we used this image for like the Memoriam thing we did.
Yeah, the image of him hugging Aladdin.
Him hugging Aladdin, but the line that he says right before he does it, like, "Al, you'll always be a prince to me." Like that line guts my heart with how beautiful and poetic it is. And the fact that it's that ultimately in the movie is a be yourself message, and that line kind of distilled it down so perfectly that it doesn't matter what you are, but it's kind of like it's sort of like what you feel like. Like he's a street rat, but he's the kid's like a prince you root for almost. He's the prince of the streets, one could say. I don't know.
The prince of the streets.
Yeah. So, but ultimately, of course, I think debatably the all-time great Disney, my favorite of the Disney songs is in Aladdin. Friend Like Me. I love that song so much. It's a phenomenally animated sequence. Robin Williams doing a great job in it. I mean, the visuals are fun. It's so colorful, and I don't know. I love the song. It's so catchy, and it's a song I have memorized. I love it. I don't know. It's just again, as I mentioned, like the Friendship with the Genie, again, like the Magic Carpet ride, which could be a ride in itself. I remember reflecting to you nostalgically, like, as a kid, you're watching that and you're just like kind of like moving around with it. You're kind of like as if you were on the ride.
In like the spinny office chair.
Yeah, something essentially something like that. Yeah, and yeah, again, also it's like this is like the genie tale. I mean, this became like the definitive. When you think genie, you are thinking, and you think of the magic lamp and everything. There's only one thing you're thinking of, guaranteed. You are thinking of Aladdin. You are thinking of this.
I Wish Dragon.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Anyway,
so I still haven't actually watched that movie, to be fair.
What are you referencing?
What?
What were you referencing? I just assume you
Wish Dragon.
Oh, Wish Dragon. Yeah, I've seen Wish Dragon.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that movie. Still.
I've heard good things.
Yeah, no, seriously, it is a good movie. It's just like, it's obviously an Aladdin Shaz. Once you make peace with it, that's great. That's the thing. I'm not really actively saying like, oh, it's Aladdin's so much better. I'm just like, okay, well, clearly there's like a genie kind of esque thing going on here, but it's delightful. Anyway, so it just, I mean, the movie just can't be touched simply. I mean, we tried doing it, and it's a very, very mixed results. Let's say, it's just ultimately, again, it's all the hallmarks of Disney. It's everything you want, and it's just kind of like, again, to me, was like, I know a lot of people when they're talking about the heights of the 90s Renaissance, that the go-tos are Lion King and Beauty and the Beast, but Aladdin there is like that's the perennial. I think it's the perennial favorite. That's the eye-catching one. That's the one where like it just kind of blends with the culture so much in like all the right ways. And clearly now we've lost the greats associated with this film. So there's kind of like a, I don't know. There's kind of like, yeah, we'll never see a Marvel like this again. It's something just to put it simply. There's something magic about Aladdin that just can't be really expressed well. It's just perfect.
All right, well said. Okay, and we arrive on the moment, Dragon. And honestly, as soon as I did this on my rewatch, I kind of knew this was going to be number one. Bambi was definitely the most surprising because I did not expect Bambi to be anywhere near the top 10. I expected this to be in the top 20 at the very least. I expected myself to like it. I expected myself to like it a lot. I didn't expect to be completely blown away by it. I think this movie replicates like every one of those factors that you were talking about, the big pillars of what makes a Disney movie great. It has wonderful world building. It has a phenomenal villain. It has a great cast of characters. It has an incredible score. And most importantly for me, it has just artistic ambition and passion just literally bleeding from its orifices. Dragon, my number one. Can you guess?
No, just tell me.
Treasure Planet.
Really?
Treasure Planet is my number one Walt Disney Animated Studios movie.
Wow, that is surprising. I did not see you picking Treasure Planet at all. Wow.
I didn't either. But Dragon, I gotta go where my heart goes. And for me, first of all, we gotta give it up to the background of Treasure Planet. The fact that Ron and John fought mercilessly, tooth and nail. They believed in this concept, and they spent a good bulk of their careers convincing Disney to make this concept. That alone, to me, just gives me so much respect for this film. And this film just feels like it's on such a higher level than anything that the non-Walt era Golden Age Fantasia Pinocchio type movies. I think those are the only movies that rival this one as far as sheer artistic ambition. And and I don't know, man, it's pretty staggering to me. I think the character designs, the creature designs in this movie are absolutely top tier. Just visually, I love everything about this. I don't think the CGI looks dated. I think the CGI blends into the environment very well. Silver, of course, is just a fucking fantastic antagonist. A great example of a liar reveal type plot line done well. You know that he's a bad guy right from the get-go. You almost kind of want to believe him. You want to be in Jim's position where you want him to be a good guy. I absolutely love the arc with Silver. I love where Silver's arc with Jem ends up. Yeah, Dragon, you did criticize that montage with Silver and the pop song, but I love that scene too. I don't know what to tell you. That scene really strikes a chord with me. It's super emotional. I love how they depict Jim's dad going off and how realistic it is. How it's not just like some big cataclysmic event of his life. It's just kind of like this almost hauntingly mundane memory he has. I don't know. There's so many elements of this story. Every single character, our boy Dragon, our boy. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
David Hyde Pierce.
Yep.
He's skiing his way into our hearts, Dragon.
Miles!
God, I literally got spit on my mouse pad doing that.
Yeah. No,
I don't know. Everything about this movie to me fires on every fucking cylinder. It's such a shame. It's such a crazy what if to me, Dragon. I feel like this movie flopping is ultimately kind of for me the big sort of like fork in the road moment for Disney. Could you imagine if this movie was a big success? And could you imagine how ambitious that would have made the Walt Disney Animation Studios lineup going forward?
Yeah, this is what I was talking about with those kind of the razor tip of the early 2000s Disney movies.
The early 2000s, Dragon, I feel like if we've learned one thing from this whole exercise, it's that the early 2000s might be the most potent era for Disney as far as just original creator-driven content that's done by a passionate team. That's, because I think the only thing with the Renaissance, Dragon, the Renaissance movies are objectively pretty perfect. But Dragon, I think you and I can agree that it's on some level, all of them share a similar structure. All of them kind of, like, I don't want to say they bleed together because they don't. They all stand on their own. But they all kind of have that, they all kind of feel like the Broadway thing. That's what they're all trying to do. And that's why, to me, the early 2000s stuff really shines, because the early 2000s stuff is so eclectic in what they were trying to do, Like Lilo and Stitch is essentially trying to be an intimate family drama. Yeah. Emperor's New Groove, a broad Looney Tunes style comedy. Atlantis, the Lost Emperor is kind of the closest that Disney's ever gone to anime. And this is like one of the most hard sci-fi movies that Disney's ever done. But I also think it fits very comfortable into the overall Walt Disney Animation Studios canon, pun intended, because it's adapting a classic source material and it's doing it well and it's doing it creatively. And yeah, man, I don't know, like, honestly, if it weren't for the backstory, Dragon, I will admit, if it weren't for the backstory and the fact that Ron and John literally had to fight tooth and nail to even get this thing made, this would certainly be in the top 5. It might not be number 1. But Dragon, honestly, that backstory mixed with how much I actually was floored by the quality of the movie, just through and through, I was never bored one bit. I don't think there's any bit of if I have one little tiny complaint, I say Morph is maybe a little bit on the cutesy side of like, oh, he's a manufactured, like, silly Disney character, but whatever. I still think he's a clever, I still think he's a clever kind of like, like stand-in for a parrot. And honestly, Ben Gum, like, we've had this conversation before, but I think even Ben is like, it makes sense. Like, I like, first of all, you don't see much of Ben. I don't think he's in the movie enough for him to ruin the movie by any means. But even still, I feel like that's about as on point to that character as you could get while still having it be broad. And, because you don't want to see a dude who's legitimately just gone insane and lost his mind to cabin fever, right? So the idea of a malfunctioning robot, like, it does fit, and it does give you the same kind of ideas without having to go full dark with it. So I don't know, man. For me personally, I think Treasure Planet is just, it represents the utter fucking upper echelon of Disney creativity and ambition. And yeah, it's just wonderful. Okay, so Z&K says, wow, what a twist. Take that, M. Night Shyamalan.
I gotta be honest, I was shocked. I went into this thing expecting Lilo and Stitch to be your number one. And the
I
fact
know.
that
I'm
Trish
figuring
planned
most
both
people
things.
did. Yeah.
Yeah, Mister. I've embroidered it on my body.
Well, maybe I'll have to get like a Long John Silver tattoo or something on the other shoulder.
This Riddles have like a whole sleeve full of just like you have like a metal arm as your sleeve.
God.
Anyway, so Z&K makes an excellent point here. He says, you basically, anytime you get a voice from Frasier, your animated project, instant gold. Iron Giant for the great the great now past John Mahoney. You have this. You got A Bug's Life, in which David Hyde played the stick bug in Slim in A Bug's Life. Jane Leaves was the ladybug in James and the Giant Peach, and of course the Kells, man.
Don't get me started with Kelsey.
The Kells.
Yeah. All right. Well, Dragon, this was a wonderful endeavor, and I'm very, very happy about the results. I thank you for going along with it. I'm so grateful to you that I'm not even going to go through the whole all right, and let's find out what combined our top 5 is.
All right.
I have it written down, but you don't want to hear it. I know you don't.
No, I don't. I really don't.
So, all right. Big thanks to Z&K. Seriously, man, you are a rock star commenting through all this. Love it. Monkey, Theme Park Priest, and everyone who made this possible. This is honestly one of my favorite things I have ever done on the podcast, and I mean that very genuinely. I like every night before recording one of these, I was just stoked and energized. And so, Dragon, thank you for going along with me on this journey. I know that I am very much the list guy. You are not, so I appreciate your patience with it. And yeah, tomorrow night we will be doing the 20th anniversary Lilo and Stitch retrospective. So very much tune in for that. Yeah, any last words, Dragon?
Well, Z&K gave us a list. We should probably read it, right?
Yeah, sure. So Z&K's top 10 is 10 Fantasia, 9 Alice in Wonderland, 8 Tangled, 7 Snow White, 6 Princess and the Frog, 5 Lion King, 4 Aladdin, 3 Mini Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, 2 Pinocchio, 1 Little Mermaid.
Very different than our list.
You can maybe do coincidental same placements tomorrow. Honestly, Z&K, at some point, I do want to make a project out of just like mathematically ranking the 60 just based on how Dragon and I both place them on our lists. But maybe that'll be like another year from now or something, or to coincide with another anniversary. And Dragon, you don't have to be involved in that whole process. Right. It just sounds like mind-numbing to you, does it not? Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
All right, so let's round this out, Dragon.
So do you want us to like say what our 10 were again, or do we want to just like
yeah, really quick, sure.
All right, so number 10, Hercules. Number 9, Peter Pan. Number 8, Beauty and the Beast. Number 7, Mulan. Number 6, Pinocchio. Number 5, The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Number 4, Emperor's New Groove. Number 3, Lilo and Stitch. Number 2, Tarzan. And number 1, Aladdin.
All right, number 10, The Lion King.
Yeah, wrong way.
I know. Number 9, Tarzan. Number 8, Beauty and the Beast. Number 7, Bambi. Number 6, Encanto. Number 5, Al, or maybe just Din. Or how about Laddie? Come here, Laddie. Number 4, The Emperor's New Groove. Number 3, Lilo and Stitch. Number 2, Fantasia. And number 1, in a shocking twist, Treasure freaking Planet. All right. Well, that's it, everyone. Thanks for watching. And yeah, by all accounts, it doesn't make any sense.